If all time exists now, then that means there's already a soul for every body that will ever exist. So my question is it possible for our soul to take on anyone's body in another life, even if that body has been part of another person's oversoul? Thank you. Bye.
No. As you have already said, all things exist right now. The idea of time is what makes it seem as if it doesn't. And the idea of the experience from a linear perspective is that everybody has a soul already. So you cannot take over another soul. You are the soul you are. You will experience what you experience within your soul, but as you change the idea, reincarnationally speaking, of the body that goes with it, your soul is different. You are the other soul. And from a higher perspective, from all that is, then you are all that is, experiencing all the different ways that all that is can experience itself. That translates into the idea of the multitude of souls that all that is is. We understand this can be somewhat confusing, but it depends upon the level that you're looking at it from, the perspective you're looking at it from. So in order to not be confused, you have to understand that asking the question from a particular level can help the answer be more clear rather than mixing the levels that you're asking the question from.
Hello, Bashar. I would like to ask about Kundalini energy. What are the practical steps to make it rise? I wonder what to do if you can already feel it at the bottom of your spine, but it does not really want to rise. Like, how do you work with it? How do you make any progress with it? Practically. Thank you very much. Much love from Prague. Jan.
Again, a lot of it has to do with following the formula more precisely, really acting on your passion strongly, allowing yourself to be okay with being in the higher vibrational state and applying that outwardly in service to humanity. Synchronicity will bring about the conditions and the opportunities for you to feel that energy rising along your spine or in whatever way, shape, or form it needs to, but don't insist that that has to be the way you feel it. It can be experienced in any number of ways, including simply in the moment an overall ecstatic feeling when you are flowing in your energy and being of service to others. That can be representative of the full Kundalini experience, even though you may not feel it rise specifically or literally up your spine.
How are you?
Perfect, and you?
I'm good, thank you.
What would you like to
I'm so excited to
discuss?
be here today talking to you.
It is our passion and our pleasure to talk to you as well. What would you like to discuss?
Yes, so a couple months ago, I went to sleep and woke up like different. I don't know how to explain it. It's like
I know how to explain it. You are always different. It's just that you are now more aware of the differences that you always are.
Okay, that makes more sense because I'm like things like that used to be interesting is no longer, like
Yes.
now it's like, okay, so like,
Yes.
so what? Like,
remember that you are shifting billions of times a second. It's just that most of you are not really aware of that because it happens so smoothly. But when you start expanding your consciousness, you start becoming aware that you are actually literally a different person every moment. So when you become more aware of that, you will start to experience feeling very different than you used to feel because you're becoming aware of the fact that you are always literally a different person moment to moment to moment. It's part of the expansion of your consciousness, the expansion of your bandwidth, and your ability to perceive what's going on in terms of how you actually create your physical reality experience.
Gotcha. And also, like my friends, like my best friend, we used to talk all the time.
Yes.
Now it's like all the stuff she talking about. I'm like, I am not interested in those anymore,
Yes, of course, I understand. You may not right now be vibrationally compatible on those things. It may not be important for you to absorb those. She may change too eventually or not, but it doesn't really matter. You will gravitate to what you are vibrationally attuned to that helps move you forward.
Got it. All right. My next question is, last month, I was on the phone talking to my husband, and I had an episode for a stroke. And I felt it, and it lasted a second, but it felt like it wasn't, it's me, but it's not me. That makes sense?
Yes.
And when I went to the hospital, they didn't find anything wrong, but I know I didn't imagine it. I felt all the whole experience.
Yes, well, this is similar to what you're already talking about in terms of understanding that when more of your soul is coming through you, it completely changes your personality expression to match the frequency, the more energy that you are expressing of your true soul vibration. So it will feel like a sort of earthquake shift in your neurological net, in your brain, in your neurology. It will feel like you have truly had a quake within your system.
Yes. Wow. Okay. Wow. That's okay. So my next question is, I have a son, an 11-year-old son. I want to know how I can help him. I understand that they choose their their parents to come here to experience.
Yes.
But what can I do on my end?
All parents and teachers can have the creativity and imagination to create scenarios for their children that allow them to understand the consequences of their choices before they make those choices in outer society, so that they can make those choices in a safe place and understand their consequences of those choices, because everyone is connected. You can teach them that they are not isolated, they are connected to everyone, and it's important what choices they make, for they can always understand how to make choices that allow them to experience self-empowerment without having to hurt themselves or anyone else in order to get what they need in life. Teach them the formula that we share with all of you, for that's how you create your reality. Allow them to understand how powerful they are as a soul. They will then understand how to grow up into balanced and mature adults who can make positive and creative choices that benefit all and be of service to humanity, knowing that if they are of service to humanity, then the whole will serve them as well.
Got it. And that answered my next question, because he was so excited that I was going to talk to you. He's like, to ask you how to be his true self. And I was like, I think you
follow
just answered
the formula. Follow the formula. And also, again, if there is anything that they actually really, truly need to know to thrive in physical reality, find a way with your creative imagination to teach them the lesson according to what excites them, instead of trying to diminish their excitement into the lesson. Adapt the lesson in the form that excites them. Let them learn that they are excited to learn.
Got it. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome.
All right. Have a good one. Love you.
Our unconditional love to you as well.
Bye.
Goodbye.
So my question is, like, I have a hard time to accept the now, and I know it should be that I'm in the perfect moment at the right time, but I have a hard time managing raising two young kids in a Western society with limited sources, because we do homeschooling and we don't believe in the system here anymore, and we want to be more free, and that's my goal, to get out of this system and move somewhere abroad. But my wish to be there now is so big that I cannot accept the now, and I'm burned out because of, I don't know, it's just too much here. So I don't know how to accept the now when my future, where I want to be, is so strong. Yeah, so my question is, how can I do that?
The idea is that if your now is telling you that you need to be somewhere else, then you need to take the actions that will bring you there to the best you can. That may be what your now is telling you. Accepting the now for what it is can also be the kind of now that encourages you to take the actions to change what you're experiencing in your now that you would more likely prefer. So use the now to be inspired to take whatever actions you can to bring about what you prefer without insistence or assumption, Just let synchronicity show you where you need to wind up. That's how to use what's going on now to propel you forward into experiencing a different kind of now. I'm not saying you have to accept all the things that are in the now. You obviously have your preferences and what's vibrationally compatible and not compatible with you. That's not what accepting the now means. Accepting the now means you understand that the circumstances that exist now can be utilized, if you utilize them creatively, in a way to propel you forward. It's just accepting that where you are now is what inspires you to be more of who it is you prefer to be. That's all it takes. So take whatever actions are necessary, whatever you are capable of acting on, that will allow you to move forward. Use your inspiration and imagination. There may be many other ways, many other paths than you think are possible. So open up in the now to the idea of receiving inspiration and information and opportunities synchronistically that can allow you to take the actions necessary to move you in the direction of what it is you say would be a more preferable existence for you in your new now.
Hello, how are you, my friend?
Perfect, and you?
I'm good, I'm great. I'm really happy to engage with you. Bashar, my question is, I often and have for a long time been going and meditating to connect with you guys out into nature. Recently, there's been a lot more contact with, I'll call it contact, with these golden orbs of light that sort of flash bulb to kind of greet me, and then they've actually kind of come down, to look at me or inspect me. What is going on with this?
You are developing and practicing an ability to stretch your senses out to other dimensions and other realms. These are members of your soul team, your soul family, helping you practice this, getting used to their vibrations and energies so that you can raise your vibration in a way that will put you in more direct contact with other frequencies beyond your soul family. So they are helping you. Some of it involved with elementals. Some of it is connected to extra dimensionals and extraterrestrials, but the majority of what you're experiencing is your soul family and your soul team and angelic beings all helping you practice getting used to perceiving those higher frequency energies.
Oh, that's wonderful, because actually I reach out to them also. So that is wonderful. Now with respects to the Interstellar Alliance, I consider myself as a member of the Interstellar Alliance because I act on the formula, acting on my highest excitement as often as I can in the moment. And that being the case in this moment, this is me acting on the formula in the moment. Is it possible? Recently, I will go to Joshua Tree to connect with you guys. Can you give some of us that are in the group some flyby sightings, maybe to familiarize us with a little more of your energy in certain places of either your choosing or our choosing?
Possibly. We cannot say for certain yet. Just go and do it in the area and see what happens. It is not fully determined yet, but possibly.
Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. I love you all. Love and light to all beings everywhere.
Our unconditional love to you as well. Thank you.
Okay.
Things, and even your scientists know that. But to use the term just to illustrate the point, let us just speak of a prime particle, a subatomic particle, out of which everything is made in physical material reality. You follow me so far?
Yes. Yeah.
The idea of the prime radiant is that everything you understand to be an infinite number of particles is actually the same one particle, interacting with itself in the following way. Just imagine now that you have one particle. Just imagine this in your mind's eye. just for the purposes of illustrating the point, even though we understand this is not absolutely literally representative of the reality. Just now imagine one particle, one little tiny point dot, if you wish. And imagine that this particle can move at infinite speed, infinite speed. Now, what this would mean is that this particle, in being able to move at infinite speed, would be everywhere at once. It would not be perceived as moving, it would just be perceived as being everywhere. But let us start with the idea that this particle really has no substance in your terminology, is not perceivable per se, and can only be perceived by you in your physical reality when it reinforces itself by overlapping itself in the path that it takes. In moving at infinite speed and tracing a line, a particular geometric pattern over and over and over and over again with slight variations, here and there it will cross itself. And as it crosses itself over and over again, it will reinforce itself and thus appear to be more and more and more solid. The less it crosses itself, the less solid it will appear. This gives rise to the idea of the very densest physical reality, where the particle crosses itself as many times as it possibly can, to the higher, more rarefied etheric realms, where it does not cross its own path that many times, to the void in space, where it contains what you call virtual particles, which simply come into existence briefly and flicker out. But you know that the void is contained, is full of many, many different potential particles, potential reality, potential dimensionalities, and so forth, and then on up the scale. The idea simply is that this particle, in moving at infinite speed and being everywhere at once, means it is interacting with itself. What you perceive to be this particle here and that particle there, held together by an apparent force, be it the strong force, or the electric force, or gravity, or whatever you wish to call it, it is not really being held together by a force. It is not really being attracted to anything. Gravitation, in that sense, is not an attractive force. There really are no forces, per se, as your society thinks of them. As such, the idea is that when this particle is moving at infinite speed, being everywhere at once, it appears next to itself a number of times, and you think, from your perspective, that this is one particle, that is another particle, but it is the same particle interacting with itself, in a sense. And the force that apparently draws them together is simply the geometry of the path that it is taking, in that this particle here and this particle there are simply representative of where the lines of that path cross each other, very close to each other. And thus there is no other place that those particles can be at that moment, but next to each other. But it is because of the description of the geometry of the path they are taking, not because there is actually a force interacting between them. You follow me so far? Now, the concept, again, of how this applies to tachyon energy, or what your society has labeled tachyons, is that simply, in the entire array of the geometric pattern that this one particle is taking, you have overlaps and arrays of different kinds of radiating patterns, side effects. If you were to imagine a very complicated geometric pattern, you would see that there are many places where the lines cross over and over and over and over and over again, and where they cross, as if you were to have, let's say, a spiral going this way and a spiral going that way, you would see certain points where the lines cross, and it would appear to your eye that there was a line being described by where those points cross. But it would be, in your terms, an illusion, you understand? There would not really be a line there, but where the points cross, in the succession in which they cross, would give the apparency of the illusion of a path. One of those paths would be called the speed of light. One of those paths would be called the tachyon existence, the tachyon dimension, and all other dimensions and all other levels therein, all within the infinite speed of the prime radiant, the prime particle. So it is simply a matter of degree, and the tachyons represent the etheric manifestations, the almost massless manifestations, on the other side of what you call the speed of light, which is simply one of those lines describing the border of your particular physiological universe, the tachyon being the material of the etheric universe, so to speak, not having been crystallized, not being overlapping enough in the geometric pattern to be physicalized per se, but forming nonetheless the underlying template for physical reality. And where those lines are crossed sufficiently, thus going from the tachyon level to the physical level, what you call physical matter, from etheric matter, and all the other higher forms of matter of the prime radiant, expressions of the prime radiant, of light, of energy, and so on and so forth. So all those ideas, light and energy and matter and tachyons and the etheric reality, are all different forms, different expressions of the one prime radiant, just by virtue of the fact of how many times it interacts or reflects with itself. Does that make some sense to you?
Yeah, I understand the prime radiant now.
All right. Therefore, with regard to the way in which the tachyon concept is being utilized in your society at this time, in that we take your meaning of certain kinds of products and so on and so forth that are made to have associations with the concept of tachyon, understand that what is simply being done is that your consciousness is being directed to the underlying template, which is representative of the tachyon level of the prime radiant. It isn't that that material is actually infused per se with tachyons, but that there is a level within all material that is the tachyon level. And when you attune your vibrational thoughts to that level, then you can extract a different kind of energy, a different kind of relationship, a different kind of focus from that layer, that tachyon layer, which exists within all material objects. Because it is more like the template level of the material object that you are holding in your hand, and it is simply the idea of focusing on that level that makes it have the effect that it has, because you then are changing your frequency to match it. You follow along?
Oh, cool.
Does this make some sense to you?
And is there different material substances that can, let us say,
represent the level, or perhaps allow the concept to be transmitted more easily to your level? Yes,
right,
there are.
transduce.
Yes, there are. There are perhaps certain kinds of variations of metals. One of the ones that actually has one of the highest degrees of transferring tachyon energy, as surprising as this may seem, would be the substance called amber. For understand that trees are very, very good at transforming tachyon energy into physical matter. Back and forth, they are transmuters of light and many different high levels of energy. So, their sap, which solidified into what you now recognize as amber, contains a matrix that is particularly receptive to the transformative use of etheric tachyon energies into physical materiality reception. You understand? So amber is one of the strongest transmuters of tachyon energy into physical energy and vice versa.
And the Japanese are using a technology in which they use silicon beads.
Yes, silicon is another.
Yeah.
The idea of your quartz crystals are also very good transmuters of tachyon energy. All right?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.